I think in 2015 when we applied for our approval, SEBI is the nodal agency in India which approves the fund. If I'm not wrong, we were fourth or fifth fund which applied for the license. And I think before me, three more fund has got started, which were almost same size which we started as our first fund, circa of today's dollar exchange rate, something around $12 million. But in terms of Indian rupees, it was 100 crore.
Hey everyone, this is Prashant and I'll be your host for the VC 10X podcast. And today we have Anil Joshi with us. Anil is the founder and managing partner at Unicorn India Ventures. He has been one of the pioneers of angel investments in India as head of operations and president at Mumbai Angels and Bangalore Angels, leading angel investment forums in India. Anil has helped close approximately 100 plus venture financing deals and was directly involved in closure of 50 plus deals. Anil has served on the board of 6 companies and is involved with various incubation centers as mentor in India as well as internationally. In this episode, we talk about the early days of the Indian startup ecosystem, investing in India's first unicorn via Mumbai Angels, how they found LPs for their Fund 1, and how has that changed for Fund 3. How are Tier 2, Tier 3 founders different from Tier 1 founders? How they spot high quality founders, and so much more. So, without wasting any time, let's dive straight in. Hey, Anil, so good to have you on the VC 10X podcast. How are you doing this evening?
I'm fine, Prashant. Thanks for having me.
Yeah, it's a pleasure having you on. And you have an amazing background in the Indian angel and VC landscape from the beginning. So, can we first have your background story and how you started investing?
Sure, Prashant. I come from a humble background, did my engineering and then did masters in management. Started my career at a shop floor before getting into this side of the world. Served different roles for 10 years. From manufacturing, I moved to sales. From sales, I joined Scandinavian business development consultancy, helping companies from Finland, Norway, Denmark, Sweden doing business in and around India. And after serving 2 years, I moved to corporate world back. Got an opportunity to be in chairman's office in leading diagnostic company Transition. There, I got exposed to several different aspects of business. Apart from what I had learned in past, got exposed to HR, legal, R&D, manufacturing, export, import. In fact, was kind of complete package. Help me get introduced to every single aspect of the business. From there, I switched role and moved to Archeon Venture, which is a diversified business house having interest in telecom, IT, energy. And I had a distinct role there. Apart from taking care of new initiative, I also had a role of corporate VC. Those days, early 2000, there was nothing called corporate VC, but that was the role I was playing. Was involved in some 8, 9 strategic transaction in field of telecom, IT, energy. 2006, I got exposed to Mumbai Angel, which is a leading angel group in India. And being, early investor member, and because of my background, I started playing contributing role in closing deals, monitoring, and that led me, taking a full-time role as a president. Ran Mumbai Angel for 3 years, deployed over $20 million, some 50 plus transaction. And then 14, I decided to move out to start my own fund. 15, we worked on setting up fund, and 16, we went live. So it was never planned move to VC, but I think destiny, wanted me to be in this space. So from manufacturing to sales to consultancy, and here I am with you.
Absolutely, a very interesting journey there. And Angels and these angel networks were actually the very pioneers of the Indian startup ecosystem. They were the ones furling the earliest of Indian startups, I believe. So, can you tell us about those early days at Mumbai Angels and you being the president and how you grew that ecosystem over time? Was it a syndicate model and who were the members of the group and how do you grew
Sure.
the member base? So, give us an insight into that.
Sure. So it's a very interesting, you know, uh, part of startup ecosystem in India. Mid 2000, there was nothing called, available formal investment for any entrepreneur who was looking to raise money. And in 2006, Indian Angels got started in Delhi, India's capital, and Mumbai Angel got established in Mumbai by two gentlemen, Shasha Mirchandani and Prashant Choksi. And their objective was to, help young entrepreneurs collectively instead of doing individually. So till 2005-6, there was nothing called angel investment, but 2006, both this group started. We became I think we were the first 20 investing member along with founders, which is Shasha and Prashant. And those days, I remember, if I can give you some statistics, if I'm not wrong, I think between 2006 till 2010, the total investment between two group Mumbai Angel Indian Angel was something around 50 odd deals. So almost
Right.
5 years, approximately, I think maybe less than that, 30 odd deals or 40 odd deals. And collectively, both group had something around 40 each, maybe 80 members. That was the size of angel population in India those days. It was very new subject. People had no idea about the risk associated, but slowly both this group started evangelizing. I think it took almost few years for us to go from 20 member syndication to some 200 plus. But then, early days, being the only group had an advantage of having access to possible almost all deals available under sun, and that helped build a very decent portfolio for either group. Mumbai Angel was lucky to have invested in first unicorn of India, which is in Mobi. And from there it started picking up. People had early uh, you know gains. I have seen stories where people invested a small amount and got almost six time of their return, in 6 months time. So it was a very interesting journey. I think I got opportunity to be associated with this particular segment, angel investment, when there was nothing in existence, and was also involved in shaping up from nothing to where it is today. If I'm not wrong, fast forward 2024, I think there are at least maybe close to 100,000 angels in country.
Absolutely, a very interesting journey, and thanks for doing your part in shaping the Indian startup ecosystem right from the early days. And I've like hosted multiple GPs now who are running sizable funds now, who were initially members of those angel networks initially, and now are now running full-fledged funds. And you are obviously one of those as well. At now, you're running Unicorn India Ventures. So let's talk about the thesis behind the fund and what you're up to there.
So it's a very interesting start for us when we started. I think in 2015, when we applied for our approval, SEBI is the nodal agency in India which approves the fund. If I'm not wrong, we were fourth or fifth fund which applied for the license. And I think before me, three more fund has got started, which were almost same size which we started as our first fund, circa of today's dollar exchange rate, something around $12 million. But in terms of Indian rupees, it was 100 crore fund. And those were the days, it was not easy to, get LPs. I remember 2015 when we got our approval, we were the fifth fund, and it took almost 18 months for me to, raise money, and we evolved because when I came out of Mumbai Angel, I thought, I will be doing exactly same what angel groups were doing, but it will be institutional check. But then realize that as a fund, you cannot be in same path or boat which angels do, because they have different objective to invest in company, whereas a fund have a lot of different objectives. So we evolved. Initially we thought we will be investing in early stage companies, irrespective of stage. But then I think after making couple of investment, we moved on to investing in pre-series A companies. We found a very niche because those were the days when India was, gaining a lot of traction on consumer internet side. And we thought if we are also in same league, probably we'll be one among many. So we slightly, tweaked our, thesis around core strength of me and my partner. And we both brought, very complementary skill sets on table. I gave my background. My founder is a two-time successful entrepreneur. First venture, he did a trade sale, and the second venture went IPO. So we brought, very complementary skill sets, and both of us, had a unique, background on enterprise and B2B side. So we built our thesis around investing in early stage tech-enabled businesses. Had a sweet corner about, on businesses which were leveraging digitization. So we made a portfolio of 17 companies. Almost all company had a one common thread that they were revolving around technology. Either a platform was built for micro lending, or a digital banking platform was made, or a company was in robotic, building robot to automate the work which was done by human. So we kept our thesis around businesses which were leveraging technology, and that's how we evolved. Initially, we started with a small check, but then average, since it was a small fund, we built a portfolio of 17 with an average size of 500,000 those days. So that's about our thesis for fund one.
Absolutely. That's very interesting to learn. And you mentioned about fundraising for the first fund. So I would love to learn more into that. Were you targeting mostly Indian institutional LPs, or were you also looking outside? And also help me contrast it with how you are doing it now, because you're also in the middle of raising a new fund now, which is, I believe, Fund 3, which is a 1,000 crore fund.
Sure.
And you have already done a first close of 250 crores. So, how has that fundraising aspect and the targeted LPs, foreign
Sure.
versus Indian LPs, give us a view into that?
Sure. So Prashant, I will say, I was lucky at the same time, was unlucky because uh, fundraise for first time fund manager is not easy. And especially when there is no history or background about fund industry in India. It was next to impossible for us to leverage the known subject. So it was twofold strategy. One, keep educating people, and then evangelize them on this asset class. The advantage, what we had was, my background actually helped a bit. My partner's background helped a bit, and our complementary skill sets gave reasonable, confidence to potential LPs. Incidentally, our fund one, we only had domestic LPs. We couldn't reach out to LPs outside India. Being a first-time manager, small fund, we thought it would be appropriate. Luckily, we were able to manage to raise entire fund from India, but with a very interesting mix of LPs. So we had HNIs who were the early backer of our fund. Then we also got a reasonable interest from family office and corporate house. And the one third fund we raised from institutes from India, including banks, insurance company, and fund of fund. That comprised, helped us raise 100 crore. That was raised all from India, and very interesting. Since you also touched upon my fund three, we also had fund two. We started our fund two with reasonable success in fund one. So our fund one is one of the best performing fund in India in its vintage. We have already given to DPI and hold the residual value of something around 6x. So one of the best performing fund. And that gave us confidence to go and raise our second fund, which is a 300 crore fund, approximately around 42 million dollar. And we did our first close exactly the size of our first fund. And the day we announced our fund, the next day the world went into lockdown. So, so we were, we were in a totally confused state whether to deploy money, or whether to return money, or whether to change our strategy. So the only good part what we had in fund two, while world went into lockdown, the first close enabled us get money in bank. It was not that that investors has committed and money was not wired. We had money in bank, and thanks to all our investors who believed in us, and not a single investor asked us to return their money back. And with that confidence, we, 3 months we just evaluated the situation, then we slowly started building the portfolio. In fund two, we have built a portfolio of 21 company. We just in mid of our life, already have taken two exits. We have one failure, but the good part is that second fund is also outperforming industry average for its vintage. We are currently at an NAV of around 1.26. And we are pretty confident, because while I'm talking to you, almost half a dozen of our companies are, going for a round. So this should certainly help us improve the, numbers for fund two. Fag end of last year, and interestingly, our fund one, fund two, as I told you, we did our first close just before country and world went into lockdown. Uh, Fund two, of course, there was no action for first 8 9 months, but I don't know what happened. Flat in 3 4 months, we were able to close our second fund, and the second fund has been largely subscribed by family offices, of which I think one third money came from overseas and two-third money we raised from India. So, difference between fund one and fund two is that fund one was totally domestic money. Fund two, we had a mix of one third from overseas and one third from two-third from India. Uh, we launched our third fund last year, and which is 1,000 crore, and we did our first close almost around 25%, of the fund size. And here, interestingly, 40% of the capital has come from overseas, and 60% we have raised from India. So far, the fund has been subscribed by family offices and HNIs, who has been our initial backer. But now we have started approaching institutes, and most likely, I think similar size we will be getting from institutes. And then, of course, we have some time left to raise rest of the money. So journey has been very interesting, fully totally domestic money, then mix of domestic and international, and now probably we'll do half overseas and half India.
Absolutely. That's an amazing journey there. And thanks for sharing all those details with us. Will help a lot of maybe emerging GPs who are looking to raise their funds. So thanks for sharing that. And now let's talk about the thesis there. So, what I learned is that you're now focusing mostly on B2B startups and founders from tier two and tier three India, right? So, what's the thinking behind this?
So Prashant, interestingly, I think many of my peers, who had initial office in Mumbai, have moved now to Bangalore. Bangalore is the capital of entrepreneurs, founders, and most of funds have large part of their portfolio coming out of Bangalore. So I can say almost around 70%, and rest from maybe other metros. Uh, with my background, at least had an as I started an angel investor, probably was one of the evangelizer for early stage investment across country. So got opportunity to travel across length and breadth of country. Probably I was the only investor who was traveling to most of the premium management and education institutes, was being part of many incubators, got involved with many state agencies who were building this ecosystem in those states. uh, if you look at our portfolio mix, I think 35% come from Bangalore, Mumbai, and Delhi NCR, and almost 60-65% of the portfolio come from rest of the India. We have made investment in places like Bhopal, Bhubaneswar, Pune, Jaipur, Ahmedabad, Cochin. Most of the places, some of my peers may not even have explored it from the perspective of investment. I'm sure they would have traveled to these places, as a tourist, but because of early exposure and getting involved at the grassroots, always gave us early access to emerging technology which was built by founders, and we took early bets. Of course, our decisions were a question mark initially, but the kind of traction we have got, happy to share that the failure rate in our fund one is less than 10%. We expect failure rate in fund two would be between 10-15%. We are factoring a bit of COVID factor, but never knew we might repeat the performance of fund one in terms of failure. But as of now, we have factored around 10-15%. So we have found that India is emerging, and especially after COVID, when people started working from home, it actually evenly distributed talent across country, right? So people started working from home. People started building, working on their ideas, at their remote places, and with better infrastructure, access to internet, and improved infrastructure, including road and power. I think it allowed founders from tier 2 tier 3 cities to build businesses from their hometown and not to be dependent on bigger cities, and it's paying rich dividend. I expect many new innovative ideas will now come from tier 2 tier 3 city. Incidentally, the first unicorn what we have in our fund one, initially founders came from tier 2 cities, right? So our decisions have been have been right and have paid good dividend.
Absolutely. I love that approach, and love that you're also focusing on tier two and tier three India and nurturing those markets as well. And talking about tier two and tier three founders, uh, what's the difference you see between them and founders who are maybe operating from metros like Delhi and Bangalore? Is there any fundamental difference, or are they more or less the same? It's just a regional difference.
Of course, we cannot take away the regional difference what these places bring in, but one very unique differentiating factor I found, Prashant. Most of the founders from tier 2 tier 3 cities are working on real problem, and they are coming up with very innovative solution. I will share one very interesting example. The southern part of the country, India, is known for coconut cultivation, and people own acres of lands of coconut trees, and the biggest challenge for anybody how to plow a coconut from a tree which is almost 70, 80, 90 feet. And here one technocrat came in, and he built robot which goes up and is collect the nectar, and now that is packed, branded, and sold in the market, right? So people come up with an innovative solution. There is a definite need which need to be solved, and that makes them go in business from day one. They are not dependent on building a category. They are just solving the unmet need of the market, and these needs are quite large. It's not that small. In fact, this solution is also now being explored in countries like Malaysia and other part of the world. One very interesting differentiating factor I've seen, that since they are not blessed with access to too much of capital, they go very frugal. The cost of building business is very less. Happy to share that none of our failure have come from businesses we invested in tier 2 tier 3. I think they don't believe in giving up. They would pivot, they may not pivot, but certainly they believe in building profitable business. And if they are solving a larger need of the market, and if they are profitable, the scale is not an issue. In fact, one very interesting example I will give. We invested in a company called Gen Robotics, which is building solution using robots. And their first product was helping automating manual scavenging, where human intervention was needed to clean the manholes. And glad to share that this one company has been profitable since we have invested. Now our investment is almost in seventh year in this company, and has been doubling their revenue every year. And I'm not talking about small revenue, it's sizable revenue. right? So that's the difference. They work on real problem. It's very innovative, frugal solution, and they are mostly profitable. They don't go for land grab. They believe in building business which is profitable, sustainable, scalable.
Absolutely. I absolutely love that. And the fact that there are like zero failures from tier 2 and tier 3 cities is mind blowing in itself. And I,
It, may not be true. We may be lucky. Long way to go.
yeah.
Journey of fund manager is just 8 or 9 years, so it's too early to validate this. But our experience has been good.
Yeah, yeah. With your sample size, that is true, right? And that's fine. Great. And would love to understand. So these are founders in tier 2 and tier 3 cities. So how are you finding these founders for solving these problems? Are they reaching out to you, or are you finding ways to reach them? So how does that work? The sourcing aspect.
So Prashant, as I told you, being an early mover, you know, a I'll not say decently known face in this ecosystem. Personally, I'm working with 5 state governments in India, helping build their ecosystem. Since we travel a lot to all these places, we reach out to people. We look for founder as a VC. I cannot sit for people to come to me. So definitely we go out. We have a research team which keeps scouting for you know companies around our investment thesis. And of course, because of being in the industry, most of the founder feel comfortable from these cities to approach us. We, as a policy, we never ever dump any business. We do give a proper look to those businesses. We speak to founders, and because of being in industry now for almost 2 decades, we also get a lot of referrals. uh, you know, uh, Being reasonably successful founders also reach out to us. But of course, since we don't do a lot of consumer internet e-commerce, we do miss out on those stuff. But true deep tech ventures, if they are looking to seek investment from VC, probably they would reach out to us first than going anywhere else. It's not an easy journey. We need to scout, we need to fish for ourselves.
Absolutely. That's amazing. And you having spent so many years in the Indian startup ecosystem, investing in startups, you must have got a taste of what a good founder, feels like when you talk to them, right? So, what are the traits that can be spotted early in a founder that is more likely to be successful than others?
It's very subjective. My lens may be different from your lens, but I think what I have learned, if founder is not able to communicate his story in a way which I as an investor unable to understand, because at the end of the day, it's not my business. My business is to look for businesses where I can invest in, and investors will only invest in if they understand that business and they can correlate with the scale of the opportunity, right? I think the founder which is able to communicate his story uh, in reasonable, simple words in first or 2 minutes, I think those are the founders you would like to work more on. Of course, it's not easy, and especially tier three people don't have same communication skills as you would have from metros. Their articulation, their way of substantiating with numbers may lack. But what I have observed, here, the passion which they brings while you know explaining the problem, the solution they have built in. Interestingly, most of my investment in, or our funds investment in tier two, tier three, most of them have they have IP, registered IP, not only in India but also in US, right? So these are very high technocrats, high quality technocrats, and I think with 20 years of experience, at least one trait which I can, or fund can look, whether they carry this passion to convert their idea to a real business or not. I think it comes over time. You cannot have it. I have made my share of mistakes early on, but I think as you grow, you learn. So I think founders' ability to articulate and make it simple for investor to understand will always make their journey easy.
Absolutely, totally agree. And you're also a member of the IVCA committee, which is basically a VC representation with the government. So, can you talk us about what happens in the community? And as a member of the community, what do you think are the things that the government can do in terms of policy changes that can maybe make doing business more easier in India, even in with the aspect of VC making investments more easier, as well as from the startups aspect.
So IVCA is a apex body which is being made by VC community. Initially, the representation was not so strong because there were not many VCs in the country, but now with over 400 venture capital funds in India, P funds and hedge funds and corporate VC funds, I think the body have fairly decent representation board. What I like about IVC is that they have also evolved with time and have reasonably brought in every representative from the segment, be it micro VC, growth VC, PE, hedge fund, and all. And I've seen that team members at IVCA, are always forthcoming in identifying problem and proactively approaching respective government agency to see if they can find some solution and help make the ecosystem more robust. We realize that micro uh, funds were growing very rapidly, whereas there were lack of you know knowledge, know-how, and then we bounce this to IVCA, and the good part was that within 2 months they formed a committee. They brought in a reasonable amount of experts on board from various parts and created a very interesting workshop, which is not limited to now, but it can be repetitive again and again. One of the best workshop content I have seen. Almost 8 months went into build it, but the outcome was very fruitful. IVC is very very proactive and representing fund issues with respective government agency, be it related to SEBI from regulatory perspective, be it from tax perspective, or be it from industry perspective. I think IVC has played a very important role, and they are continuously playing because it's an evolving industry. If you look at Indian VC industry, is just 1.5 decade old. The first fund got registered in 2011, if I'm not wrong. It's less than 1.5 decade old industry. So long way to go. And IVCA is playing very important role in building that.
Absolutely, totally agree. And the workshop that you mentioned, is that recorded by any chance? Can more people access it?
I think it was recorded. Whether it has been made public or not, I'm not sure. But
Okay.
objective was to make it accessible to larger population.
Okay, I'll see if that's accessible. I'll make sure to put the link in the show notes for the people as well, right?
Sure.
Awesome. So let's now talk about portfolio construction, right? So tell us more about the portfolio compositions that you try to keep and the amount of fund that you reserve for follow-on rounds and stuff like that.
Prashant, we follow very interesting, uh, thesis around portfolio building. Unlike many funds where they follow concentrated approach, what we do, we use 20% of the corpus of our fund to build the portfolio. So if my fund is 100 crore, we use 20 crore to build the portfolio, and the rest of the 80% investable corpus is used in better performing companies, right? And probably that may be the one of the reason for we having lower percentage failure rate, because we back successful company more than writing average check to each of the company. Considering the stage where we are, the failure rate is quite high, and we wanted to ensure that we risk minimum capital on failure side, and that's how we built the thesis of building portfolio using 20% of the corpus, and the rest of the capital is used in better doing companies. Uh, in general, we are sector agnostic. If you look at fairly diversified portfolio, I have investment in SaaS, AI, ML, medtech, robotic. Then we also have in diagnostic, one in edutech, fintech. But we followed one very simple thesis for building the portfolio, that we will invest only in company which is leveraging technology. Of course, we have added two new segment in our fund three, considering the opening up of defense and space in India. It makes sense for us to now look at for innovative solution, because both this have a lot of scope to come out with very interesting solution, large industry, and if you have interesting solution, can scale up very fast. But the fund always have remained concentrated on investing in companies which are leveraging technology, more you can say digitizing legacy businesses, right? So we use
Absolutely.
20% of the corpus to build the portfolio, and rest of the money is put in growing company.
Yeah, absolutely. So how many companies can you back with that initial 20 crore corpus of that 100 crore?
Oh, so that we built a portfolio of 17 companies, I told you.
Okay.
In first one, I think we used 22 crore exactly, to be precise, slightly over, 20%. But then rest of the money was used only, you know, backing the good companies. Unfortunately, all our company did fairly well in fund one. Fund two is also looking same. We had few learnings from fund one, that in fund one we built our portfolio over a period of 4 years. It's a 7-year fund. First time fund manager, we made our share of mistake. But now we have started building portfolio in flat 2 years, and that allows us to build portfolio, spend more time on them, monitoring, nurturing, and then looking for exit. I think we are learning every day, and that's what it is.
Yeah, for sure. Absolutely. And now coming to my last main question before we move on to the rapid fire round. And this one is about what would be your advice for founders who are building right now in a relatively difficult fundraising environment when funding isn't as easily available to everyone?
So I think it will be wrong on my part to say, as far as India is concerned, that early stage founders would have difficulty in raising money, because we are seeing same madness as far as the bottom of pyramid is concerned, raising fund. But let's believe that fundraising is a challenge today, which is true for growth stage companies. So my two bits to founders is that there is no dearth of money for good solution. Focus on building a quality product which is solving a problem, and have a potential to scale not only in your relatively small market, but the larger market. And if you're able to prove and demonstrate that with frugality, I think money is not an issue. So don't give up, stay grounded, focus on building a product. If it is not giving the desired result, go back to the drawing board, see what changes to be made, and do what need to be done, but come out with a product which is needed by the market, solving the larger problem.
Absolutely. Awesome perspective there. And now let's do the rapid fire round. I'll ask you five quick questions about the fund,
Sure.
and you have to give five quick answers. Okay.
Sure.
Awesome. So the first one is, what are the sectors and regions you invest in?
We are tech focused. We have investment in fintech, insurtech, health tech, medtech. Uh, we have been investing across India, largely tier two, tier three, but also reasonable exposure in metros.
Okay. And what's the typical stage of investment?
We prefer doing it pre-series A stage.
What's the typical check size you put in?
Currently is $1 million.
Where can founders apply for funding in case there's a direct way?
They can apply through our website. They can reach out to us through LinkedIn. I think these are the two best way, to approach us.
Awesome. Last one, where can our listeners follow you?
LinkedIn is a better, platform to reach out to me.
Absolutely. Thanks so much for coming on the podcast, Anil, and sharing your journey with investing in the Indian startup, right from maybe the inception of the Indian startup ecosystem story and right until now when it's still in its very early stages. And hope you keep funding the future of India. Thank you.
Certainly. Thank you, Prashant. Pleasure talking to you.
Likewise.